You're watching Utah's #1 news station. This is 2 News at 5.
A possible break in the search for Susan Powell, who went missing nearly 2 years ago. Good evening. Thanks so much for being with us for Utah's #1 evening newscast. West Valley City Police say they have credible information about the West Valley mother of 2 who went missing under suspicious circumstances in December of 2009.
Well, detectives in the case are heading to eastern Nevada. They will complete a full-scale search in the Ely area tomorrow. Now, we've got team coverage of the story for you tonight. Our Chris Jones is live in Ely, where this search will be conducted tomorrow. Brian Malahy spoke with Susan's family today and is live in West Valley. And
Dan Rascone is in our newsroom with a look back at this bizarre case from the very beginning. Chris, we want to begin with you this evening. What's happening out there?
Well, from what we understand from West Valley City Police, they tell us that as many as half a dozen members of their department are on their way right now to Ely, Nevada. They will search the area around this casino town. We are told that there are going to be officers here. They're going to be here until possibly early Saturday morning. Now, the area where we are is surrounded by rugged terrain, mountains, as well as the Great Basin National Park, which is about 60 miles away from where we are right now. According to police, they tell us that they are going to hold a press conference tomorrow morning to give us some details about the search. At this point, they're only telling us that they are following up on credible information at this point. They tell us that this is information that they have gleaned during their investigation. Now, there is no reason to believe at this point that remains or have been found regarding Susan Powell. And the reason that we believe that is because we've talked to the sheriff out here. His name is Dan Watts. He says, had there been remains, had there been a body found, he would be amongst the first to know. He says that that has definitely not happened. There have not been any arrests in this area of any significance. According to Sergeant Mike Powell with the West Valley City Police Department, he tells us that this is just information that they are learning. At this point, he is calling it, quote, credible and important. A press conference is scheduled tomorrow here in Ely, 9 o'clock in the morning in Ely. That, of course, is 10 o'clock Mountain Time. The story continues to develop. At this point, however, they are searching. It doesn't look like they've found anything. It appears that they are going to begin a search near Ely. Back to you.
Any idea why they would call a news conference, though, if they're just searching? Do you think they need the public's help? Maybe somebody saw something in the Ely area a couple years back. Do you know why the news conference?
You know, that's a really good question because, you know, over the last several months, information out of West Valley City has really dried up, and you can understand why. I mean, this is a very sensitive investigation. There are a lot of avenues that they still have to pursue. Why they've been so open and why they've been so public, that's a really good question. Perhaps, you know, they're hoping that that this added publicity might jog some memories, maybe jog some memories right here in Ely. Back to you.
All right, Chris, it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. Thank you very much. Susan's father, Chuck Cox, just learned about these new developments coming out of West Valley City this morning.
But Chuck Cox says police gave him only very limited information. Brian Malahy outside the home that Susan lived in with her husband, Josh, and their 2 kids. Brian, a pretty unusual approach by police on the information about Ely.
Shauna and Mark, highly unusual to a friend of Susan Cox Powell. She cannot remember a time since Susan vanished that police have put out a press release. Police, though, say the information tied to Ely is credible and significant.
Yeah, we're always wondering what's going on, if they're still searching.
Betty Trujillo's grandkids used to babysit Susan and Josh Powell's 2 little boys. Susan is on Betty's mind.
If they're saying that they've got something significant out there, that makes me feel a little bit hopeful that there's something to this.
Kiersey Hellowell, good friend to Susan, says she doesn't know the potential Ely connection, but says it's close enough Josh Powell could have driven there during the time Susan went missing.
We wanted to leave everything to the police.
Susan's father, Chuck Cox, called police in West Valley today asking about the information. Chuck says police told him it's a lead, but that they can't discuss it. Also today on the phone, Chuck Cox told me that Josh Powell has put a temporary restraining order on him so that he can't see his own grandkids. Apparently, Chuck met up with Josh in a store. The kids were there. Chuck wanted to give his grandkids a hug. Josh, according to Chuck Cox, said no and asked him to leave the store. Then came the restraining order. That issue is set to be in court this coming week, according to Mr. Cox. Mark, Shauna, back to you.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. Now, most of us, of course, can remember hearing about the disappearance of Susan Powell 20 months ago.
The developments from one day to the next, you may not remember. We continue our team coverage with Dan Rascone right now.
And Dan, you have a timeline of Susan Powell's disappearance, and it starts on, of course, that very cold winter day.
Yeah, that's right, Mark and Chana. It was December 6th of 2009 when Susan Powell was last seen by someone other than her husband, Josh. Investigators say she went to bed early that night complaining of an earache. Her husband says he decided to go camping with the kids in the West Desert, and when he comes home the next day, he says his wife is gone.
This is the lady that's missing.
Early December 2009, the search is on for 28-year-old Susan Powell, a wife and mother of two small children ages 2 and 4. It was Sunday, December 6th when Susan was last seen by a neighbor. December 7th, police break a window to get into the home. They find Susan's cell phone and purse left behind. December 9th, officers serve a search warrant to the Powell home and call her disappearance suspicious.
It's been really hard, but, you just keep going.
December 10th, Josh Powell speaks publicly for the first time to our Chris Jones.
I didn't do anything. I mean, I don't know where she's at. I don't even know where to start looking.
Josh claims he took off on Sunday night to the Pony Express Trail in the West Desert to camp with his kids in freezing temperatures.
So you got confused on what day it was?
Yeah.
That night, friends hold a candlelight vigil. December 11th, Susan's father, Chuck Cox, arrives in Salt Lake from Washington State.
We love and miss Susan.
December 12th, Josh Powell holds a press conference but says nothing. His brother-in-law does all the talking. December 14th, Josh is a no-show for an interview with police. December 16th, Josh is named as a person of interest. His attorney,
and I've told you I'm not answering any questions,
also refuses to speak. December 20th, a candlelight vigil is held in Washington State. Josh Powell is hounded by media.
Do you know what happened to your wife?
But says nothing. January 9, 2010, Josh Powell moves to Washington.
In my opinion, only he and God knows where his wife is.
Month after month, the search and investigation continues. Still no sign, still no suspect named, and still no evidence of Susan Powell's whereabouts.
I still need to know where my daughter is.
Now, Josh would later tell a Salt Lake Tribune reporter that Susan is mentally unstable and she ran away. Josh's brother later emails us saying Susan ran off with a Steve Kosher, a young man who also went missing about the same time. He later says he plans to publish Susan's journals from her youth as proof. Susan's family and friends say these allegations are ridiculous and laughable. Mark, Shauna, back to you.
All right, Dan, thanks.